Welcome and welcome back to S Reviews. Today we're point by point reviewing and breaking down episode 6 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Spoilers ahead, let's begin. Point number 1. Point number 2. Oh hey, these aliens look like ones from the casino in Canto Bight. I wonder how a Last Jedi reference will go down with a certain segment of the Star Wars fandom. Point number 3. Hey, Puckett survived, that's awesome. Oh, and I guess it's alright that Urkel and the other pirate survived as well. Must have just been some nameless red shirts that got melted horrifically in acid. Good riddance to 'em, I say. Point number 4. I'm really starting to question how good of a First Mate 33 actually was for Tak Renaud if he can be disabled this easily and consistently. Point number 5. If you're enjoying the video so far, give it a like to let me know, and if you're interested in seeing more, then make sure to subscribe and ding the bell. Point number 6. No, the trash crabs are so cute, I want one. I especially like the one with a droid leg for a shell. Point number 7.
See, they can talk. And that means they're intelligent.
Actually, Wim, I think you'll find
the ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Point number 8. Would you look at that? Freda seems to feel some remorse for betraying Jod, which is more than can be said for how she felt about betraying Red in Orange is the New Black. Yes, this is the second time I pointed out Dale Souls plays Freda in Orange is the New Black. What are you going to do about it? Point number 9. So this entire time I've been referring to KB's cybernetics as attachments, but now seeing how they actually go inside of her body, inside of her head, the more apt description would be implants. I assume as well KB mentioning about her running around on the freezing cold moon where Kim lives, and going days without maintenance is what has contributed to her displaying some odd behaviour throughout the show. Like when they were on at Akron, KB didn't hide when the headless statue was shot with a blaster, and she didn't get that Wim was going for a high five after she aimbotted all of the cans. Either that or she was so transfixed with the statue the blaster fire didn't faze her, maybe because she somehow recognised the statue, and as for the high five, maybe she's never high-fived before. Her telling Wim if Fern stopped being her friend she'd be back to having zero friends again means she had no friends before Fern, and so maybe has just never in her life participated in a high five. Or maybe Wim was the inventor of the high five on at Atin. I mean, just look at how few times a high five has appeared in Star Wars canon according to Wikipedia. So just like the famous Klaus Heisler in our real world.
Oh, the high five. Not to toot my own horn, but I invented that.
Wim should have his name immortalised in Atin's history books for coming up with this gesture. Point number 10. It's really interesting how KB with her cybernetics represents people with disabilities, and how some people can either be dismissive of people's disabilities or downplay how serious they are. This latter reaction usually comes from good intentions of not wanting the person to feel different to everyone else, but as KB says, she is different, and trying to treat her like she isn't doesn't exactly help her in the long run. That's not me saying she and other disabled people should be given preferential treatment, so to speak, or discriminated against or whatever, but just that her disabilities should be acknowledged in the sense that they should be taken into account and accommodated. Like, that's why access ramps are a requirement now. You can't expect the amount of mobility of someone with leg issues to be the same as someone with no leg issues. You ideally wouldn't discriminate against people in wheelchairs by denying them access to areas people who can walk can access. You would instead accommodate them in any way you can, like by installing ramps or lifts. Then there is also the angle of KB and other people with disabilities, for one reason or another, acting like their disabilities can't stop them from doing things those without disabilities can do. When Fern accurately guesses why KB says she can't go down into the spa, KB lies, saying that isn't the issue, because as she tells Wim, she doesn't want to end up ostracised due to her disability. She doesn't want to lose Fern, who she believes doesn't possess the patience to accommodate her disability, who who KB thinks she expects KB to be able to do everything that she can do, which again would be like someone with no leg issues expecting someone in a wheelchair to be able to make it up a flight of stairs, just because they can, so they expect the wheelchair user to be able to as well. But then with the added element that the wheelchair user does then try to make it up the stairs on their own, because that's what the person they're following expects from them and they don't want to be left behind. This all also reminds me of John Locke in Lost, a man in a wheelchair who believes he can do anything those with no leg issues can do and wants to be treated as if he has no disability. Though the difference between KB and John is that John is in denial that his disability has in fact significantly affected what he is and is not actually capable of doing.
Don't tell me what I can't do!
KB isn't in denial over her disability. She accepts it, but both resents Fern for not understanding it limits what she's able to do, but then also downplays how much it limits what she's able to do herself, because she knows, or at least believes, Fern doesn't understand it limits what she's able to do, and that, again, she doesn't possess the patience to accommodate KB's disability. In KB's mind, it really is a no-win situation. Damned if she does, and damned if she doesn't in regards to telling Fern to take her disability into account when thinking of things to do, because if Fern doesn't take it into account, then KB has to continue to act like her disability doesn't limit her, but if Fern does, then that would mean KB's disability would be now not just limiting what she can do, but also what Fern can do, which in KB's mind would result in Fern abandoning her to escape those limitations. Though of course later we see the two make up and come to an understanding over the issue, that Fern should be more aware and accommodating of KB's disability, and KB should be more trusting of Fern to not abandon her if she points out her disability will get in the way of whatever it is that Fern is wanting to do. Hopefully in this point I didn't say anything that came across as potentially ableist. I try to word everything carefully, but if I said something that did sound ableist or wrong in some other way, I apologise, it was not intentional. Point number 11. Damn, that metal melted then cooled real quick. Must be why KB told women to collect a specific type of metal. Also, anyone else getting Pepper helping Tony Stark replace his arc reactor vibes from all of this? Point number 12.
Step! And step! And step!
Being a big Tremors fan, during this scene with Fern and Neil, all I could think of was this part of Tremors 2.
And step! And step! And step!
Point number 13. Yeah, definitely getting Harry and Ron meeting Aragog in Chamber of Secrets vibes here, with KB and Wim meeting the Trash Crab God. Point number 14.
I'm always wrong about who's the good guy!
I mean, you were also wrong about Cathalos being a bad guy, so you're only 2 for 1 there, Wim, which ain't that bad. Point number 15. Lucky these Dune-esque carrier ship things aren't piloted by actual people, but can be piloted by someone on top of it via a set of controls. Also that they were going in the direction of where KB and Wim are for Fern and Neil to pick them up, because I'm pretty sure Fern's only able to control the one her and Neil are on. She's not controlling all of them. Also incredibly lucky that they managed to crash in such a way that none of them got hurt or died. But as the famous author J.R.R. Tolkien once rapped,
That's not what's called fantasy! It's meant to be unrealistic!
so I shouldn't really complain. Point number 16. The Chekhov's gun of the emergency hull demolition sequencer pays off. I should have pointed out it was most likely a Chekhov's gun back when it came up in episode 2, but I'm glad I pointed out the Chekhov's gun of the school roof gun back in episode 4, because I'm willing to bet that will play its part when Jod, Brutus and the rest of the pirates show up on At Atin in the last 2 episodes. Point number 17. Okay, this whole concept of the Onyx Cinder shedding its outer hull like an insect is really cool and stands up to scrutiny. I actively tried to see if I could find any faults with this, and I really couldn't. I especially focused on Wim and how he could still be in a turret after it was left behind on the outer hull, but you do see him descend back down into the ship, so the seat platform must have automatically lowered itself to the other turret, then sealed itself off. Definitely a good thing this happened in atmosphere, because I can't think of any way that could work without whoever's in the gunner seat being exposed to the elements outside for a brief moment. So if they'd been off planet, Wim would have been in some way exposed to the vacuum of space, which would not have been good. Point number 18. This also explains why even though Tak Renaud is a legend and Jod and the other pirates know about him and his ship, none of them ever recognized the Onyx Cinder, which would be like someone knowing who Hector Barbosa or Davy Jones is but not recognizing the Black Pearl or the Flying Dutchman. It's because the armor Renaud said he put on the the Onyx Cinder in his holo recording in the last episode, in preparation to head to At-Atin, along with it being all rusted and battered from crash landing on At-Atin, made the Onyx Cinder unrecognizable. Also, Tak Renaud believing he needed to reinforce his ship before heading to At-Atin might have been because he found out about the gun on the skull roof on At-Akron, and prepared for the possibility that other such guns were also built into buildings on At-Atin as well. To round all of this off, my most disliked part of the episode goes to just how easily 33 can be taken down by one shot from whatever this droid disabling gun is. I assumed when it happened back in episode 2 it was because he had been shot in the back and was hit in a weak spot, but in this episode he gets shot in the front and goes down like a sack of potatoes just as easily. It really does lessen how much of a threat he is and how good of a first mate he must have been to Tak Renaud. Is it because he's such an old droid that these disabling weapons are so effective against him? Or are these weapons pretty rare or expensive or maybe even new? Because thinking about it, if they're not, I would imagine they would have been used by every single trooper during the Clone Wars, since you just need to land one shot on a droid and it ends up disabled. I don't know, what do you guys think? And my most liked part of the episode goes to seeing the kids split up in a new way and how KB and Wim and Fern and Neil interact with each other. Each pair is able to talk to each other without it dissolving into an argument or one always having to acquiesce to the other. It was really neat to see, and I hope it helps them continue to get along and cooperate better in the last few episodes. Thank you all for watching Triple S Reviews. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like to let me know, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe and ding the bell. I also have a variety channel where I post a variety of different videos. If any of them interest you, check them out. I've been Triple S, you've all been amazing, and I shall see you all in the next video.